My name is Sergeant Major Stowe. I'm a parent of a deployed soldier. My son Darren came back last February, and he spent a year in Saudi Arabia. Half his unit was in Saudi Arabia, and half his unit was in Iraq. Give you a little perspective of where I'm coming from. He's now 22, so was in college, deployed, back, took a little adjusting, and now is back on the road and is back in college. So, go ahead, Lieutenant, why don't you introduce yourself?
Lieutenant Beckwith. I'm a chaplain candidate in the state of Minnesota, and one of the things that I bring to the table today is I was a single soldier deployed. I was single when I was deployed, so my experience, there was no reintegration. Came back active duty, just going right back to being Army again. So some of the tools that we're going to provide for you today hopefully will help you process how you could help your soldier reintegrate successfully versus the experiences I had.
Could you give a little perspective on what is it, a son or daughter?
I have a 24-year-old son. He's over in Iraq. Has a 2-year-old child here. It's been very stressful on me and his sister. I've raised both of my kids alone.
Okay.
So this has been very hard on all of us. So waiting for him to come home. Just want information on what could happen, what kind of post-traumatic war syndrome thing
Sure.
is what I'm most concerned about, and how I can help him, and so on and so forth.
So he's 24 and has a 2-year-old child?
He has a 2-year-old.
And he's
Thank
single?
you.
Hey, come on in.
He is single. Mhm.
Okay.
So,
All right. And what's he do in theater?
he was in the communications, and then he was in the sniper pool, and I believe he's back now in the communications. I'm not sure.
Okay. We kind of introduce ourselves. I'm a parent of my son is 22 and came back last February, and I'm also active duty military, so I kind of get a little both perspectives. But Lieutenant was a deployed soldier, active duty, was single at the time, is now married, and what we want to do is we'll probably give you the condensed version. We had some larger groups earlier. Highlight some things that you might or might not see, and maybe how we can help get your son reintegrated. And we found out a 24-year-old son, right? And son or daughter?
Son. A son, 24 years old. He's in Fallujah.
Okay.
Yeah, should be coming home in March.
Yeah, big smiles.
Yeah.
And what does he do there? What's his job?
Infantry.
Infantry?
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to get started here. We're going to probably buzz through some of the slides and get to what we think are the meat. A little bit of an agenda. These are some of the common problems that we're seeing is some destructive behavior when the single soldiers are coming back. Drinking, speeding, motorcycles, online chat pornography, maybe it's gambling. Those are just a few of the issues that can. I don't want to paint a gloom and doom picture, but these are some of the things that some soldiers are going through. And your son may not have any issues. 90% of the soldiers come back, cool off, go back to work, go back to school without any problems. And that's perfect. But their buddy on the right or the left might. So anything that we can do to save that 10%, to get them, pick them up a little bit and help them is what we're really after. My son, we really didn't have a problem with the drinking. He's never been a big partier, at least he never told me. And going through high school and was off at college for years, so I don't know what he did down there. Speeding, he's always has had kind of a lead foot. But the motorcycle, he was going to buy a motorcycle when he got back. Going to get the crotch rocket. And got his license and jumped on a buddy's Harley and proceeded to put it into the side of my truck. So that solved that. Decided that maybe $3,000 damage is enough. I don't need a motorcycle anymore. Things that the soldier can't do anymore because now they're a little bit different in age at home. Things that they did in Iraq, they can't do at home. There's some adjustments there. The lieutenant talks a little bit about flashbacks from his experience.
Flashbacks are basically anything, kind of to highlight your question, that it concerns the anything that reminds a soldier of an experience. You always hear the word PTSD, but very few are actually physically diagnosed with PTSD. Every single soldier is going to come back with combat-related stress issues. It could be nothing more than going out for dinner with a family, and you can't see a clear exit, so you're a little apprehensive, you're a little edgy, because you don't know your surroundings as well as you may know your other surroundings, and so that's a little bit of anxiety. It could be a loud explosion that sounds like something that mimics something else from another experience. What I like to say usually is, these are normal responses to abnormal experiences. It's not normal to go to combat every day. It is normal to be walking down the street and when you hear something bang, to maybe respond to that because of an experience previous. So flashbacks, it just takes a process to get through that. But some of the difficulties, some of the problems, there are issues that the soldier just needs to process through. That was there, this is here, how do I process that now?
These two kind of go hand in hand. It's different being single than it is being married. A lot of the reintegration stuff is really focused on a soldier with a spouse, and they really have someone on their right or left, whatever side they stand on, that they can rely on, count on, and pick them up and help them through the process of coming home. You're the parents, and that's you. You're here to help them because they don't have a spouse yet, and has a child that he needs to reintegrate with us as well, so he's going to lean on you a little bit heavier, and that's important. For us, we took some time off, and at some point we had to go back to work because you got to pay the bills and all that stuff, and then Darren was home alone, so we were a little apprehensive about that. Fortunately, we didn't have any issues. So reintegration, get them going. My big questions to Chaplain Morris before Darren came home were, how do I re-energize him? How do I get him refocused back into school? All those questions that I had for him, and maybe we can help you with that today. Aggression, some soldiers, they have a little bit of aggression. Money and budgeting. I saw you smile earlier. Maybe that was one of the ones you smiled at. Was a soldier that has a spouse has responsibilities back home. So they're making money, and the spouse is back home paying bills, whether it's car payments, house payments, the kids, the son's dental bills, whatever the case may be. Where a single soldier is just working and making money, and somewhere it's going back home. And how do you help them use that money properly? And the big key, I think, is just communication. They want to buy something big and expensive and that goes fast. Maybe it's a snowmobile or motorcycle or whatever. Maybe there's a cooling off period. Just ask them just to think about it a little bit, so they don't have buyer's remorse. Darren wanted to buy a brand new Jeep Cherokee. The second day he was home, we kind of talked him into buying a lease return. Because save a little bit more. And CDs. He found out CDs are a good deal because you can't touch the money right away if you want to gain the interest. Dealing with questions and some of the people that ask him, your son's going to come home and get asked 1,000 times in a week, are you glad to be home? Are you glad to be home? And at some point it gets a little bit old. Just tell me, just keep answering that question. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Because the person on the other end is really curious about their experience and wants them to know that, hey, we're glad you're home. And they should never get sick of that. Military, at some point in time, your soldier's going to have to make some decisions about the military. Do I want to stay in, don't I? Do I want to go to school? Do I want to stay in the same unit? Those are some difficult decisions. Old friends, your son's changed over the last 18 months. They have matured in a different way than their friends are. They're both 24. So their friends are a little bit different, and your son's a little bit different. So are they going to have the same friends when they come back or not? And my son reintegrating with his friends was more him than his buddies, because he said, they're way ahead of me. They're 2 years ahead of me now in school. I don't have anything in common with them. Well, they do. They're still friends. They've been lifelong friends. So we got to communicate that to them. Let's go to the next one. Some people wonder what normal is, and normal is really the way your son walked out the door. That's what you remember as normal. And they've changed. They've seen some things, done some things, maybe, who knows, that has changed them. When they come back, their normal, you think their behavior should be like the day that they left. You thought Darren would maybe jump back into school, be the same fun-loving kid. But there was emotions, there was a difference there. And the key is identifying, base everything off normal, the way they left, and what's changed. You know, they pick up some bad habits they can't get rid of. Maybe there's something that you can help with and change it. We call 5 phases of reintegration. We'll jump right into the first one, which is kind of the funnest, habit breaking. They develop some habits. Swearing is just like second tongue in the military. We don't teach it; it just happens. Radio talk, you know, Roger, negative, you know, things like that. And at some point, if swearing becomes an issue, you just got to ask them, hey, you know, don't call it the freaking mashed potatoes. Please pass the potatoes. You know, you'll find at some point you might just have to say, I think you maybe need to tone down the language a little bit, and they'll say, hey, I got it. They're not going to take offense to what you ask them not to say. They don't get it yet. They've been dealing this, you know, for 18 months with using the Effenheimer all the time. It's not acceptable. Quick eating. You're going to want to, let's sit down around the table and have a nice, quiet, slow dinner. Well, they're used to eating and going because there's things to do. Maybe it's rack time, whatever the case may be. So it might take a little bit of adjustment to get them to sit down for a good quality meal. How long? Maybe a week or so. If it becomes a little longer than a week and they're still throwing the F-bomb around, then it's time to get involved and say, let's tone down the language a little bit. Go ahead, sir. We really never had a problem with exploration. I didn't even ask where you're from.
Jamestown, North Dakota.
Okay.
We're from Fargo.
You're from Fargo, sir. Both North Dakota. For us, exploration was in our immediate surroundings was what used to be a farm field was now a soccer field with 500 kids every night playing soccer, and then a whole bunch of new homes. So it just took Darren a little time to, you know, check out the town, see how it changed. But more than that was, you know, the hangouts that was fun, now really aren't. Just exploring the surroundings and figuring out what's changed. And that's pretty quick. It doesn't take them much to figure out that Jamestown might have grown a little bit, or an extra stoplight or something. Go ahead, sir. Celebration. We don't allow them to drink in theater. They're not supposed to anyway. For some reason, sometimes they happen to find it, but there's reasons we don't allow them to have alcohol. So the soldiers seem to think that we're going to come home and we're going to have a big party. We're going to party and then we're going to keep partying, and it becomes a problem when it doesn't go away. Like I said, I didn't want to paint a picture of gloom and doom. 90% of the soldiers are going to come home and be just fine. 10% aren't. It's just a wild number. Sergeant Huff used to help with this brief, and he was out of the engineers, and he had a soldier that would come out of his basement. He had a soldier that wouldn't leave the bar, would spend every single day in the bar. Those are the soldiers we're trying to find. It probably won't be yours, hopefully it won't be, but maybe your soldier can help a buddy. So when they go through this reintegration process with us, hopefully they're going to be looking left and right and picking their buddy up. You know, can we help you out? Let's watch for them so they're not a casualty.
Celebration will also include the communication that you have with your soldier about the expectations for their homecoming. Extremely important. You don't want to overload them and overwhelm them. Let them drive that. If they want to do one event with everybody coming over and explaining their story once, that's great. If they want to take some time and process things, maybe get together with a small group of people, allow them to drive that. Sometimes it's overwhelming to have that big surprise party. Sometimes, depending on the environment that they were in, that many people can be really, really disconcerting. They're not around that many people that often. So let them drive that as far as celebration goes.
Mm-hmm. You know, this was up here, but it really wasn't an issue for us as far as projects, but I can see how this could be an issue where a soldier just starts several things and never really completes anything, and that would be a sense of accomplishment. If that continues, then it could be a problem. You know, maybe it ends up with you know, a vehicle they're working on your driveway and it never leaves, and it becomes your problem. So just watch for those things. It could be a sign of not being able to accomplish something. Good. Reality check. Darren came home and we went to work, and he really, his buddies were back in school or had jobs or whatever the case may be, so he was home. Really didn't think that he had to go to work. Unemployment is available to him, and they can file for unemployment for I think up to 6 months, have to check in periodically. But at some point they get reality. And our job as parents is to encourage them with reality. It's time to go back to school. Maybe you've been on unemployment for 2 months. That's not going to help you in another 2 or 3 years. We need to get some work experience, and it's probably not the funnest job. They all deserve a break when they come home. And it's up to us as parents to determine and help them define how big that break should be and what's next. So at some point, reality is going to kick in. The homecomings are done. Everybody said thank you to them 1,000,000 times, and that's done. So reality. And in your son's case, reality is he's got a 2-year-old son, and that boy's changed. So
Yeah.
he's going to be slapped with reality right away.
Oh, yes.
So-
He was just Tuesday night when he called.
Sure.
So,
And I know I don't have to tell you this, but keep doing what you're doing until he comes home and feels that he can take some of that and figure out how his new 2-year-old is going to affect his life and all that
You'll have
stuff.
to take it real slow.
Oh yeah, but it'll all work out.
The baton approach is huge. I love that. I love that scene that Gary just shared, because it's very important, because that marathon doesn't get completed unless the other person hands off. And if one drops it and the other one doesn't reach back to pick it up, it still gets dropped. So I think that's extremely important. We'll talk about it in another slide as well, but the communication is important. You want to make sure, you're somebody who's just coming back from combat, you want to make sure that you're offering advice when it's an appropriate time. Not that you would do this, but not tell them what to do, because they know what orders are, and they know how to take orders, and they know how to give orders, and they may not be in a process to even receive what you're giving at that particular time. So make sure you test the water and know it's like, you know what, this is something that I'd like you to do. Would you mind helping me out with this? Versus, hey, you're not doing anything around the house anymore. I've been carrying everything while you've been gone. That kind of thing. It's kind of important.
Lieutenant kind of hit on something. It's in another slide, but you kind of have to ask, can I help you at all? Do you want me to offer you some advice on that, or do you want to try to figure it out on your own? And they may stumble a little bit, but you got to offer advice. Even though they're 24 but they're young adults, and they've been away from some things for about 1.5 years. So, what did your son do before he left?
He was going to school.
Going to school.
Moorhead State. See, he lives in Fargo, and we live in Jamestown. So
Okay.
I was thinking about that. It's going to be hard for us to pick up on some of these things sometimes because we won't see them.
Oh yeah, you will.
Often,
So my son comes home, and he lived in our basement, back in his room for a few months, and then probably the best thing for him is he got a house right by the U in Minneapolis with some buddies, and that kind of got him regenerated, restarted. He still comes home to the laundry bag and drops it. And Kim does his laundry, he puts it back in there, and he takes it back, but they'll still come back because they. And maybe you need to inject once in a while too. It's just drive up, over, and spend a weekend with them. It's important and it's important for you too as parents, because he's gonna come back to school and want to get right back into it. But at some point, you need a little closure too. It's all part of the welcome home. The lieutenant mentioned it earlier. We decided to let Darren pick the coming home party. So we said, what do you want to do? Do you want to, visit everybody all at once, or do you want to go around to all the grandmas? He said, give me a few days, and then have everybody over for potluck, and I'll bring my slideshow and tell my story, and then tell you that. But it really isn't, because they get asked all the time. So what'd you do? What'd you do? These are some myths and misconceptions, and because they don't want to talk about it. It's because they're sick of the military for a while. 18 months together doing the same thing, a very tough mission. Maybe they just don't want to talk about it. Maybe they do. Maybe they'll open up to you and tell you everything that they experienced, and that's healthy. There's some people are gonna, they're gonna want to shoot anybody. Well, some did, some didn't. Most don't. Most don't even shoot their weapon. Your son will know if that's the person he wants to tell it to. He may not tell you, and don't be offended by that.
No, we're very close, and he's basically told me everything. I mean, he'll call and we'll be on the phone, or for quite some time, or we'll be on the internet for, one time it was 3.5 hours. And he's just basically just so he could get it off his chest, and needed somebody to talk to at that time, so he calls mom, or
You're on a good start, really, because
That's awesome.
it took us a while to get Darren to call our pastor, even this, and we're like I said in the first group, I'm not the most church-going guy, but we go and all that, but it took that for him to start talking to us. That's how we figured out that he did have, a slight issue that we had to work with. Go on to the next one. This is pretty good on the next one. My soldier's a steely-eyed killer in combat, murders indiscriminately, and would kill me at any time. Well, that's not true. We have very strict rules of engagement. So most soldiers, like I said, don't shoot their weapon. The organizations from around this area are involved in some pretty heavy stuff. So there are some soldiers from here that did for reasons, because they had to defend themselves from comments.
Allow them their space, though. Don't sneak up on them. Don't open their door and wake them up. Let them wake up, or stand at the door and wake them up. Don't go to them and wake them up. I was joking one of the previous sessions. My mother-in-law startled me, and I put her in a half Nelson and had her down on the ground. And my wife kind of looked at me and went, So just keep space.
The bottom one just says that, we all have our quirks, we all have our issues and skeletons and so on, and your son's going to come back with a whole different perspective in life. He's seen some people live in the dirt and might appreciate things more. I don't know, but the maturity level is incredible that they come back and they're a totally different person. And some of them have a problem dealing with friends that aren't as mature or mature in a different way. Darren is lucky that he's been able to rebond with all his buddies. So that was kind of cool. These are the 5 practicalities. Be there, listen, and this might be tough for you because he said it's a distance, but there's the phone, there's the internet, we're coming over. Ask permission to offer advice. Lieutenant kind of touched on that. And never stop encouraging them, because they will always do that. Respect and communication. And the bottom one is the most important one. And they'll tell you when they want to talk, and when they're not talking, maybe it's time to engage them and say, anything you want to talk about? I don't know what kind of bond you had with them before they left, but it really shouldn't be any different. Positive. We're all positive with our kids. None of that stuff changes. And the key is finding those things that are different than when they were gone, when they were home before. What are they doing now? Are they doing a lot of drinking? That's not healthy. One of the groups that they'll get to listen to when they get back, and it's mandatory, is the highway patrol, because the laws have changed. It's .08 instead of .10. It's because you have a special license plate doesn't mean that we're not going to ticket you or pull you over. You can be a danger to society by driving the way you did in Iraq. So the laws are, they got to understand that we're back to, that's part of the coming back to reality is, there are laws that we all abide by. A friend of mine, Ron Pomeranian, I told you about him earlier. He was riding with his wife in a vehicle in the cities, and they came up to a stoplight, and she stopped, and he just started yelling at her, "What are you doing? Go, 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 go," because they don't stop. They go. So she's like, "Chill out. It's a stoplight." So there's those little things that they got to get used to.
Take riding with your soldier at great caution. You drive normally for the first couple of times, because you'll experience some really cool things, like when you go underneath an underpass, you make 5 lane changes.
That's so true, because Darren's kind of scary to drive with, but you got to tell him. Hold on. Yeah, this is all easy stuff. What's the last one, the favorite slide?
Favorite slide.
What kind of questions do you have of us? You know, my son's experience is going to be different than your son's experience. And your son's experience is going to be different than somebody else's experience. But maybe there's something that I can help you with. Maybe there's something that you can help your son with. But the big part is maybe there's something your son can help their buddy with.
Yeah.
When we come back and we do this reintegration thing again, it's kind of neat to see. We're going to go down to Fort McCoy when they come back, and one of the last things they do is they get to see us. You know, what an awful thing. We're keeping them from their family, but it's important, and that just happens to be the piece that we get. That we got to get them through all the medical stuff and all the paperwork stuff, and it's important that we get a little bit of time with them. And then they're going to come back, and there's celebrations and so on. At about the 30-day mark, we're going to come back here to this area. It's in a different building, I think, and all the soldiers come and they with their families. It's important if you please make it, because they're going to zone out. They're not, you know, like, I don't want to be here. This is ridiculous. And there's information that's put out that I was writing notes on benefits that were available. College benefits have changed. They don't want to be here. Just don't want to be here. So I took a lot of notes. And then they come back at 60 days. So at the 30-day event, you're standing there over by the coffee, and he's over here with his buddies that he hasn't seen in probably 30 days. And he's kind of rebonding with them, and they'll never lose that. And they do the same thing at 60 days. So one of the things, you've probably got some emails about, you know, the guys they hang with. Or they're in all male units?
Yes.
Okay. So the guys they're hanging with, and this guy is a great buddy, I can always depend on him. This other guy's a jerk, So you're both smiling. It's neat to meet both sides of it, the buddies and the jerks, because believe it or not, the jerk guy is actually a pretty decent guy. And they just didn't.
They're both buddies.
Yeah, they are. And they
I mean,
both,
one's his third cousin and one's his buddy.
sure.
His third cousin is a jerk and his buddy, I mean, the other one is his buddy, you know?
Yeah. They don't understand a 30-day event. I went as a parent in civilian clothes, and there's a kid behind me, and he was just.
Now, this is 30 days after they're back here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they come back for a one-day event where they get some of this stuff, a lot of benefits, a lot of things are available to them, how to figure out TRICARE, because it's really hard to understand. And it's important that you come with them and take some notes, because, you know, I asked Darren, did you file for that $59 a month bonus payment thing you can get? Like $59 a month, you know?
Yeah, but
So-
North Dakota residents aren't entitled to it.
There might be something in North Dakota.
But there's something other that North Dakota is available.
Isn't there a North Dakota rep
But
here?
there-
Is there a VA rep here?
Mhm.
Okay. We'll have to investigate that, because I'm glad you brought that up, because I didn't even think of that.
It's really cool because about 60 to 90 days, that's when everything's starting to come back together. 30 days, deer in the headlights still. I want to see my buddies. I don't want to have anything to do with the Army stuff, but I want to see my buddies. And then all of a sudden, around 60 to 90 days, wow, and I needed that. That's that booth over there. I'll go grab that. And they're actually going and getting it versus you saying, why don't you go get that over there? So it's really fun. I've seen 2 units all the way through their full 90 days. 30, 60, and 90, just to see the dynamics that changed within that unit during that time, see some of the improvements and some of the kind of the aha experiences of some of the soldiers that are coming back and going, oh, I do need that, or hey, that was really cool. So
The GI Bill program is a little bit different, that they don't understand. They have to go and physically see the VA rep about the GI Bill, because there's more money available because of their active experience now, their active duty time, than if they were on the reserve component GI Bill. And I think North Dakota has 100% tuition.
He goes to Moorhead, so.
Yeah.
They have a reciprocity.
He lives in
So,
Fargo,
Yeah,
and yeah,
it's
so
100%.
it is.
that's great.
so, what other questions do you have?
You've got your pens. I want to give you a quick tool. This is a counseling number. The Department of Defense has provided 6 free sessions for counseling. And this is for anybody that cares about that particular soldier, that the family members, anybody, spouse, friends, fiance, what have you. These are 6 free sessions per issue. So let's say halfway through integration you're dealing with one thing. and then all of a sudden something else, some dynamic changes in the family, and then something else comes up, it's another free 6 sessions by a professional counselor who has nothing to do with the military. So the anonymity is there, and that complete removal from, man, I gotta go to my commander and talk to him about this, or referral, things like that. Unless they physically do that, this is complete anonymity. This number is 1-888-755-9355.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just watch for signals and things that aren't you don't think are quite right. Pop in on them unexpected, look in the fridge and see if there's more beer than food. And that's an analogy that came from our adjutant general, General Shelto. He was a Vietnam vet and came back, and one of his uncles stopped in and opened up the fridge, and I asked him in the group, I said, so was there more beer or more food? He said there was more beer. But just check on him, and that might be a more difficult, but you'll figure it out.
Oh, we will.
Yeah. So, do you have any questions of us?
I don't know.
Okay. Well,
But thank you.
ask, and
You've
there's
been helpful.
Yeah,
Ask
very
them.
helpful.
Very helpful.
people all over that are willing to help. It's
Yeah,
just a
that's
matter of
what's so
asking for it.
awesome.